Imagine waking up right now and having absolutely no idea where you are. You look around the room. Nothing feels familiar. You try to remember how you got here. Nothing. You ask someone next to you what happened. They explain everything. You nod. You understand? Then 30 seconds later, you ask the exact same question again. Because for you, that conversation never happened. This wasn't a nightmare. This was the daily reality of one man for 55 years straight. And what scientists discovered from studying him completely changed everything we thought we knew about the human brain. This is the story of Henry Molaison, and this is the story of your memory. Henry Gustav Molaison was born in 1926 in Hartford, Connecticut. By all accounts, he was a perfectly normal kid. He liked to hunt. He liked mechanics. He dreamed of fixing engines for a living. But when Henry was 7 years old, he was hit by a bicycle, a small accident. Nothing that seemed serious, but something changed inside his brain that day. By the time Henry was 10, he started having blackouts. By 16, the blackouts became full seizures, violent, uncontrollable, multiple times a day. Doctors tried everything, medication after medication. Nothing worked. Henry couldn't go to school properly. He couldn't hold a job. His entire future dismantled by a brain he could no longer trust. By the time he was 27 years old, Henry was desperate, and so was his family. That's when they found Dr. William Beecher Scoville, a neurosurgeon at Hartford Hospital, who proposed something radical. Something that had never been tried before. He wanted to remove a part of Henry's brain, specifically a seahorse-shaped structure deep inside the temporal lobe called the hippocampus. Scoville believed this was the source of Henry's seizures. Remove it, and the seizures might stop. Henry and his family agreed. On September 1st, 1953, surgeons opened Henry's skull and removed most of his hippocampus from both sides of his brain. The surgery was considered a success. The seizures reduced dramatically. But something else happened, something nobody expected, something that would make Henry Molaison the most studied individual in the entire history of neuroscience. When Henry woke up from surgery, he recognized his parents. He could speak normally. He remembered his childhood. He remembered his life before the operation. Everything seemed fine until the nurses noticed something strange. Every time they walked out of Henry's room and came back, he had no idea who they were. He would introduce himself, shake their hand, have a full conversation. Then the moment they left and returned, complete blank. "Hi, I'm Henry. Nice to meet you." Again and again and again, Dr. Scoville called in a neuropsychologist named Brenda Milner to evaluate Henry. What she discovered over the next several months would rewrite every textbook on human memory. Henry Molaison could not form a single new long-term memory. Not one. Every experience he had, every conversation, every meal, every moment, vanished within 20 to 30 seconds. He could read the same magazine over and find it just as interesting every time. He could meet someone, have a deep conversation, feel a genuine connection, and 30 seconds later that person simply did not exist. He once described his own experience like this: "Every day is alone in itself, whatever enjoyment I've had and whatever sorrow I've had." He knew something was wrong, but he could never remember what it was. Can you imagine living like that, waking up every single day in a world that keeps moving forward while you stay permanently frozen in a moment that never changes? So what exactly happened to Henry? To understand that, we need to understand how memory actually works. Because most people think memory works like a video camera. You experience something. Your brain records it, and it stays there, stored somewhere like a file on a hard drive. That's completely wrong. Memory is not recording. Memory is reconstruction. Every time you remember something, your brain is actually rebuilding that memory from scratch, pulling fragments from different areas, filling in gaps, sometimes inventing details that were never even there. And this reconstruction process, it depends almost entirely on one structure: the hippocampus, the exact thing surgeons removed from Henry. Here's how it works. When you experience something, your senses send signals to a part of your brain called the amygdala. If the experience is emotional enough, The amygdala flags it as important. Hey, remember this. Those signals then pass through the hippocampus, which acts like a memory consolidator. It takes short-term experiences and converts them into long-term memories, like a librarian, taking books off a cart and filing them permanently on the shelves. Without the hippocampus, the books never get filed. They sit on the cart, and within 30 seconds, they fall off and disappear forever. That was Henry's reality. But here's where it gets fascinating, because Henry could still learn certain things. In one famous experiment, researchers asked Henry to trace the outline of a star while only looking at its reflection in a mirror. It's incredibly difficult. Try it sometime. The first day, Henry struggled badly, like everyone does. But the next day, he improved dramatically. And the day after that, even more. By the end of the week, Henry could trace the star almost perfectly. But here's the thing. Every single day, Henry had no memory of ever doing the exercise before. Is this new? He would ask. Yes, Henry, it's new. Yet his hands remembered, even when his mind could not. This experiment revealed something enormous. The brain has not one, but multiple memory systems. System 1. Declarative memory. Facts, events, experiences, things you can consciously recall. I went to Paris last summer. This requires the hippocampus. Henry lost this completely. System 2. Procedural memory, skills, habits, muscle memory, things your body knows how to do without thinking, riding a bike, typing, playing piano. This does not require the hippocampus. Henry kept this completely. Before Henry, scientists thought memory was one unified system. After Henry, they understood it was multiple systems working in parallel. This single discovery changed neuroscience forever. So what does all of this mean for you? Because Henry's story isn't just a fascinating medical case. It's a window into how your brain works every single day. Lesson 1. Your emotions determine what you remember. Remember how the amygdala flags emotional experiences as important? This is why you can forget entire months of a normal year, but remember exactly where you were when something devastating happened. This is why your first heartbreak feels more real than last Tuesday. Your brain doesn't record everything equally. It records what felt important. So if you want to remember something, attach an emotion to it. Study while listening to specific music. Associate information with a vivid image. Tell someone else about it immediately. The stronger the emotional tag, the deeper the memory. Lesson 2. Repetition builds memory, even when you don't feel like you're learning. Henry couldn't remember practicing that star, but his brain was learning anyway. This is why habits are so powerful. You don't need to consciously remember every single rep at the gym, every vocabulary word you reviewed, every chord you practiced on guitar. Your procedural memory is recording it all. Even when your declarative memory says, "I can't remember doing this," the learning is happening. Trust the process. Lesson 3. Sleep is when your hippocampus files the day's memories. This is not metaphor. This is literal neuroscience. During deep sleep, your hippocampus replays the day's experiences and transfers them to the cortex for long-term storage. Skip sleep, and your hippocampus never gets to file. Those memories from the day, weakened, fragmented, partially lost. This is why pulling an all-nighter before an exam is one of the worst things you can do for your memory. You spend hours loading information, then rob your brain of the one process that actually saves it. Sleep is not rest from learning. Sleep is learning. Henry Molaison spent the rest of his life at a care facility in Windsor Locks, Connecticut. He participated in thousands of experiments, contributed to hundreds of research papers, all without ever knowing just how famous he had become. For decades, to protect his privacy, scientists referred to him only as HM, the most studied human being in history, and almost nobody knew his name. He never complained. He never showed bitterness. In fact, researchers who worked with him described him as consistently cheerful, gentle, cooperative, funny even. Because for Henry, there was no yesterday to regret, No tomorrow to fear, only now. Always now. He passed away on December the 2nd, 2008, at the age of 82. And only then did scientists finally reveal his full name to the world. Henry Gustav Molaison, the man who forgot everything and taught us how to remember. After his death, his brain was carefully preserved and cut into 2,401 microscopic slices, each one digitally photographed and made available to researchers worldwide. Even in death, Henry continues to teach us. He never got to remember a single conversation he had with a scientist, but every one of those scientists will never forget him. Henry's story teaches us something that no textbook ever could. The brain is not a machine. It's not a hard drive. It's not even fully understood yet. It is the most complex object in the known universe, and it lives inside your skull right now. Every memory you have, every person you love, every moment that shaped who you are, exists. Because of a tiny seahorse-shaped structure, doing its job quietly every second of every day. Take care of your sleep. Attach emotions to what you want to remember. Trust your brain's ability to learn, even when you can't feel it happening. The next time you forget something, remember, Henry, a man who lost his memory, and gave the world one of its greatest gifts. If this story changed how you see your brain, share it with someone who needs to hear. Subscribe to MindShadow for a new psychology story every week, and in the comments below, tell me, what's one memory you never want to forget? I'll see you in the next one.